Yes, to kick us off today, I'm really, really pleased to introduce someone that I think most people on this call know really well and who I've worked with. Ed Silverton has been involved with the Universal Viewer from the very beginning, before it was even called the UV. And he's played a foundational role in shaping what it has become. So he's built the community, he's developed our governance model, established a steering group, and his experience, insight, and long-term commitment has been central to the UV's evolution. So hopefully we're doing it justice as it moves forward. So welcome, Ed. I'll pass over to you.
Well, thanks for that. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully this works. First time using Figma to present something. Right. Are you seeing that okay? Um, Thanks for inviting me to present. It's a great honor. So yeah, UVCON 2025. Um, as mentioned there, I've been involved from very early on when it was called the Welcome Player back in 2012. It's hard to believe actually it's been this long, but yeah, it was called the Welcome Player. It supported OpenSeaDragon DZI files at that point, not AAAF. This was pre-AAAF, and this is a project with Digerati where we basically commissioned to build a viewer that could do everything basically that Welcome needed for their catalog. So yeah, these are the images at that point, MP3s, MP4s, and PDFs. And towards the end of that project, we discussed open sourcing it with Welcome and actually set up their GitHub. And yeah, they were very open to it, and that was kind of the beginning of this story. And then I think the Welcome Place started in 2012, and then it was like a year-long project, and then it took a little bit of time, and then the British Library saw the open source project and were obviously very, very invested in AAAF from very early on, and saw the value in having a kind of uh, universal viewer as it became known. Um, and we then worked to port the Welcome Player over to AAAF, which is the beginning of the AAAF story for us as a project. And then, yeah, in 2017, we set up the Open Collective in order to raise, funding via the community to pay for kind of the upkeep, maintenance of the project. And part of that was what made it quite unique, I think, is the steering group model, where essentially there's kind of a table, and you can buy a seat at the table by sponsoring the project. And at that table, you can decide on our monthly calls how the funding should be spent. So that was very successful. And I've got to talk about numbers in a minute. Um, yeah, and that saw us through until the present day, really. Plus other projects that we use in the UV. Um, and then in 2018, we did UVCON, which was a great success. Sarah Wheel came into the mix, who's been a huge contributor to the project, not to mention Damien as well. Damien should have his own bit on that timeline, actually. That was an incredibly significant moment when Damien got involved in the project. He was really the first person to do that outside of the British Library, I think. So that was a really significant moment. And then Sarah Will joining the project is another immensely significant moment. And then in 2022, I think another very significant moment was we sort of modernized the UV in that we implemented Webpack. And this meant that we could do stuff like only loading code that we needed to show the particular bit of content at that time. And that's been great, and it's enabled us to sort of start using more modern frameworks like React in the project, and I'm really keen to see that continue. And then the most recent milestone is last year, the British Library created a dedicated team who you're going to meet more today, who are doing a fantastic job, and we'll get onto that as well. Um, so this is our mission statement. We want to help you share your stuff with the world, basically. Books, manuscripts, newspapers, AV, audio, video, 3D objects. That's kind of the raison d'etre of the project. How can we make it easy for people to share this stuff? Obviously, open source plays a big part of that as well, but that's kind of a contributor to that mission. So we've got the kind of obligatory logo slide here. But yeah, I mean, this is just a sample, really. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, organizations who've contributed to the UV or used the UV. Um, but yeah, I mean, all of these have either implemented it or submitted pull requests or been involved in some way or another with the success of the project. So yeah, to date, the Open Collective, I actually met the Open Collective people in London a few years ago, and for them, we were considered a very successful project. Um, not a whale as it were, but still a pretty big fish. So yeah, we've raised going nearly $90,000 so far via the Open Collective, which has been very helpful in keeping the thing going. 55 GitHub contributors and over 1,000 Slack members, um, which is incredible. Um, and so far, 4 community projects have been delivered through our steering group. So, one kind of theme of today is the community, obviously, is the kind of heart of everything. I mean, nothing happens without the community involvement. And, we're all sort of, pedaling in the same direction, it seems. And it's going from strength to strength. My involvement, I'm more of a sort of light touch. Kind of they wheel me out for things like this occasionally. Um, but yeah, I still contribute to the UV. I did an exhibit project recently for St Andrews and to add AV support, and that meant fixing some stuff in the UV. So I still get my hands dirty occasionally, um, as it were. So yeah, content handlers. This is kind of my big interest with the UV. I see AAAF because I had to add YouTube support to exhibit years ago, and that meant YouTube isn't AAAF, it's something else. So I had to kind of implement this content handler architecture where AAAF is just a type of content, and really, images in AV and 3D and EPUBs currently are a subset of that AAAF handler. But I think this is quite a powerful model, and you know, it's possible we could move EPUB into its own content handler, um, because it's not really dependent on AAA. It's kind of, we're painting EPUB files onto canvases, but that's not really, it's kind of a standalone thing, works on its own, separate to AAAF. So I think that could be an interesting future project to make that another content handler in its own right. But also, the potential's there to extend the UV to be anything, really. It's essentially, I've got it actually in my notes here. So it's a configurable, interoperable, full screenable, embeddable in an iframe HTML div with Webpack code splitting to dynamically load any code you want, supported by a sustainable, engaged community. That's as succinctly as I can put it, but that's how I see it. So that's it. Um, Thanks very much for listening. Cheers.
Thank you, Ed. It's brilliant to hear the background. And I think you underplay your current contribution as well, because you're often getting your hands dirty for us. So thank you very much. Great. So any questions, please pop them in the chat. There will be opportunity at the end of the whole group of talks to ask, to quiz Ed on his various bits and bobs in his presentation. So, okay, I think this is over to us then, isn't it? Now as the steering group, I'm trying to find my agenda. So I think this is the steering group update. So sorry, if you're okay sharing. So yeah, so this is a bit of an expanded version of the update we gave back at the IIIF conference in June. So since then, community work has continued at pace, and we just wanted to take time today to walk you through it in a bit more depth. Also, a lot of you won't have been at the IIIF conference back in June. So over the past 18 months, as I keep saying, the steering group's we've been placing a strong focus on strengthening the community, both in terms of how we work together and how we support the people who contribute to the project. So this presentation will just go through why that's been such a priority, the steps that we've taken to ensure that the UV remains a well-maintained community-driven product, and how we're building a more active and sustainable network of trusted committers. So I hope this gives you a clear sense of where the work has been heading and how it sets us up for the future. Okay, I'll hand over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Robin. So the UV started life, as Ed has already explained, in 2012 as the Welcome Player created by Digerati, then developed into the IIIF viewer on behalf of the British Library. So although this was a successful project, there really needed to be a way to both keep the UV sustainable and our users happy. So setting up the Open Collective attracted international sponsors, and then following the 2018 UV conference, the steering group was set up, and this helped provide transparency and structured decision making. However, early development still relied heavily on individuals or isolated procurement, and that lacked long-term sustainability. So I'll pass to Erin to talk about our challenges.
Yeah, so to sustain and develop the UV, we needed a much broader group of people actively contributing to the project. But contributors, especially new ones, were running into several barriers. So those getting started with the UV had to struggle with a really complex, under-resourced code base. There was a real lack of documentation, and there were no documented processes or procedures. And so these challenges led to wider issues, meaning that there was a limited number of developers that understood the UV's architecture enough to implement significant changes. We were really dependent on individual goodwill. There were single points of failure, and this really resulted in scattered development efforts. So without coordination, the features were developed in silos, and this led to UI and code complexity. So it was clear that we needed a community to develop the UV, but we also needed structure and a direction to make that collaboration effective.
We decided that the community projects were the answer to this problem. We'd run projects before, but these were community funded rather than community developed. And our first true community project was in October 2024. And so far we've run a further 4 successfully, and we've just started our 5th 2 weeks ago. Was it last week? Who knows? Time goes so fast. So running agile projects within a single organization can be challenging enough. So coordinating these involve multiple organizations across the globe. This requires thoughtful planning and attention to practical details. So we manage all community and institutional-led developments using a public GitHub project board. You're welcome to have a look at our link there when we share this later. I'll use both the UV and the IIIF Slack channels to promote calls for participation. So we needed a centralized space to capture key sprint information such as goals or MVP and participant details. And Miro proved to be an ideal solution for us in this due to its ease of access and shareability. And feedback from sprint retrospectives showed that we needed project-specific GitHub boards to make backlogs clearer. So we've created specific GitHub project boards for each of our projects. We also created a dedicated community sprint channel on Slack, which is the main center of communication for us and the teams during projects. And this allows open access to discussions which are captured outside of our daily scrums. We hold the usual agile ceremonies, and we've fostered a culture of self-management and shared leadership within our teams in the project. And as our project teams often include 10 or more people from 6 to 8 international institutions, collaboration and clear communication and planning, as you can imagine, due to the different time zones we operate in, and in our daily scrums, that's been the cornerstone of our success. So the strong commitment and generosity of the community in offering their time, their energy and resources to these projects, as well as feedback from our stakeholders, this will ensure the UV will continue to thrive.
So this change has fundamentally reshaped how we work, and it places decision-making and responsibility into the hands of the wider community rather than a small group of funders. It's allowed us to decentralise both development and non-development tasks, and it's most importantly, I think, lowered the barriers to entry for contributors and creating a more welcoming contributor environment. So holding open project sprints with regular stand-ups has meant that the community members can actively participate in a real-time developer environment, which is really powerful. And we've seen a real drop in the number of reported issues thanks to stronger peer support for new and existing developers. And this broader community involvement, it frees up the steering group so we can focus on strategic coordination and planning and road mapping and those sort of tasks. But I think one of the most important outcomes of running community projects has been the shift from a model driven by passive sponsorship to one powered by a broader base of active community stakeholders. So lessons learned, what have we learned on this journey? We've learned that the community and its associated institutions are willing to contribute time and effort, because that's a worry at the beginning. And because of that, we increased our sprint duration and frequency. So right at the beginning, we were only doing 1-2 week sprint, which is quite difficult to get things done in that short space of time. And this flexible approach to time commitment, it works really well, and it means it's possible to manage community and institutional priorities effectively for mutual benefit. We've really recognised the importance of good comms, both to increase sprint participation and for the visibility of the work that we do. And I want people to know what we're doing. And we're making plans to improve our messaging by identifying the most effective communication channels. It is a constant challenge, and it's something that we're always trying to learn from. Ensuring consistent participation in sprints and governance remains an ongoing effort. The way we view these sprints has evolved over time. And now we see them, and this is a bit lovely-dovey, as a blanket, a warm hug around the contributing institutions and community. And it just means that those that wish to come and work and improve the UV can do so with loads of support. And it's a low risk, really, to come and learn about Agile, learn about community development. But in practice, this will look like, I suppose, the user story for this. So like, say your institution has a feature they want to develop. Come along to a community call, talk to us about it. It's really unlikely that you're the only one that wants it. And then from there, we can help you widen up to the wider group, look at user requirements, figure out where it sits in our priorities, and figure out the best way to support that work. And this might mean just from giving feedback on a pull request or doing a code review, all the way to organising a full-blown community sprint, whatever makes the most sense.
So let's talk about what we've actually accomplished in our 3 technical sprints over the past year and a half or so, because we've yielded some significant improvements. Our very first sprint was focused on accessibility and came around the time that we had gotten a really good volunteer accessibility review on the project. And so the work of this sprint resulted in addressing a lot of basic accessibility gaps, making sure labels made sense and were present in all the places they belonged, making sure keyboard input works as expected, among other things. And then our second sprint sort of built upon this by focusing specifically on the mobile experience, as there were some long-standing issues in the UV where the mobile view on a smaller display was functionally inferior to the desktop experience. And this second sprint really helped to close that gap, got some things in place that were missing, like the ability to navigate between multiple documents on mobile and so forth. And then, and this may sound a little selfish for us developers, but our third sprint was focused on the developer experience, really making the UV easier to develop, updating all of our tooling, and reducing technical debt to make future sprints easier. And even though this was sort of an inward-looking sprint, it did yield some very useful, very visible things for the community related to configuration. We not only documented all of the many available configuration settings in the viewer and tested that they actually still do something. We also built an interactive configuration tool that's part of the Universal Viewer's demo page that's available on the web and to developers so that you can interactively reconfigure the viewer while you're looking at it and test out all of those settings. And across all of these sprints, it's really been a pleasure to participate, collaborate with people, and watch the community's confidence and experience level grow. We've been able to do more and more with each sprint, and I think we're going to keep growing and building that momentum. And I'm really looking forward to what we do in coming years as we keep this up.
And talking of the future, thank you, Damon, for that segue. What do we have to look forward to in 2026 in the future? So the current project that's running until February 2026 is focused on redesigning and recoding the public UV website. So we can create a resource outside of GitHub and Slack, which will be more accessible to the wider community. The BL team, the British Library team, is currently incorporating existing work by the Swedish National Archives to create a new annotations interface on top of the main UV release. So we hope this will be available for UV users in the second quarter of 2026, which is incredibly exciting. So while we're making all of these great changes to our website and the UV itself, we also need to modernize the architecture of the UV. As you can imagine, a project that's been around for over decades needs some work to improve its technical infrastructure as well as its interface. To make it more attractive and easier project to work with for the end user as well as developers. And finally, we're constantly working to strengthen the community through fostering new working partnerships and reaching out to those who aren't yet part of the UV world. So to those who have contributed over the years, none of this would have been possible without all of these institutions who have contributed time and resources to this project. So I'd like to say a big thank you to those who are part of the community. We want to continue to improve on what we've built so far. And UVCON 2018 was a milestone that brought many improvements to the UV community, without which we wouldn't be where we are now. So we hope UVCON 2025 can be the catalyst for more of you to become involved. So we're always looking for ways to make our community events more accessible and more inclusive. So if there's something holding you back from participating, please let us know. So join the discussion on Slack and keep your eye out for information regarding future projects. And if you have seen the Menti code, it'd be really great if you could comment on that. Use the Menti code to let us know what you think of the conference and of what we're doing here.
Okay, thank you both. Hopefully that's given a good idea of what we've been up to the past 18 months if you weren't aware, and hopefully the incentive to come along to one of our community sprints and join in, because they're always really productive but also really good fun as well. Okay, so now it's time to move on to our lightning talks. We have 4 speakers who've really kindly offered to talk about what they've been doing with the UV over the past months and years. So first up, I think, is Mia, and she's going to talk about the importance of good UX and the impact it can have on the product. So Mia, can I pass over to you? I can't actually see you, but you're here. Maybe she's not been able to get over here in time.
Yeah.
James, should we go to you then? We were initially scheduled first anyway. Are you all right to jump in?
Yeah, sure. Maybe Mia's joining us at 14:40. I think that's when we're a bit ahead of time. So
Oh, yeah, we are 5 minutes ahead.
I can crack on.
That would be brilliant. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Do you have permission to share? Oh, there we go. Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, let me know if you can't see this. I've had a few technical difficulties joining this chat, so I'm hoping this will work. Okay, so yeah, so the purpose of this talk is really just to make you aware that we exist. So the British Library now has a dedicated team for Universal Viewer within the library. So a lot of the background of the UV has already been covered, but I will give a bit more specific, BL-specific context. So in the beginning, the British Library's website had this staggering number of different viewers, 35. This created a huge disparity between features and discoverability and identifiers. And the same items were available across different platforms and different formats and quality. And it was very hard to maintain, as you can imagine, and a hugely variable user experience. So this was part of the reason for adopting a single universal viewer in 2014. So that provided the solution to this chaos. So during that time, after the UV was adopted by the BL, a lot of the work, the development work on it was done by external contractors on a kind of ad hoc basis for different features. So for instance, what became known as the Universal Player was created for the British Library Sounds archive. So you can see this player embedded on the website here with this nice like waveform visualization. But it was that way of working, that sort of contracting was thought to not be very sustainable or optimal for the library. So they decided to hire a team specifically for Universal Viewer, and that's us. So we're spread across the BL's 2 sites at Boston Spa, New York, and St Pancras in London. And from left to right, that's Syra, who's a research software engineer, Erin, who you've just met, product owner, Lanie, who we're about to hear from, she's our senior test engineer, and me, James, I'm a research software engineer as well. So Syra started in October 2023, and the rest of us joined a few months later. And during that time, as you've probably heard, there was a huge ransomware cyber attack on the British Library. And it's really difficult to overstate how destructive this was. So the BL server estate was encrypted or destroyed as a kind of anti-forensic measure by the attackers. And
Are you breaking up a bit, James? Sorry.
Building this really critical infrastructure it's a very long task. There's petabytes of data to be scanned.
Hi, James. Sorry to
for
interrupt. Sorry to interrupt, James. You're breaking up a little bit for us.
Bring malware, and obviously it's of the infrastructure being extremely cautious. Okay, I think my connection is not very good. I'm not sure what I can do about it. Can you hear me?
We can
Hello?
hear you on and off, but we can't see your presentation anymore.
Hello?
We can just see the.
Yeah, we can just see me,
That's
which
okay.
is which is awful.
Can you hear me at all?
Yes, I can hear. We can hear you now, James.
Is that, but I can't hear anybody else. How's
Yep.
this? Is that better? Okay, is that clearer? I've turned my camera off. Shall I just crack on?
We don't have your screen
sorry
shared.
about that.
We can just see Zoom, James.
So I'm lag between what I'm doing because I'm on the screen share.
Okay. Okay, we can see your screen share now. You might need to move the Zoom app away from your share.
Okay, is it? I'm just going to proceed, and if you can't hear me, just shout.
Yeah, carry on. It's better now. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So yeah, so the St Pancras site is operating more or less as normal, but online research services are still pretty minimal, even 2 years on from the cyber attack. So for the UV team, that was quite a frustrating experience because there was a total lack of any data to work with, or even any AAAF infrastructure. So it's been hard to sort of imagine or develop new features without the data to actually put into UV. And I would recommend reading this document about the cyber attack if you want to be kept up all night. It's quite a horrifying read. But despite that, the UV team at the BL have still found a lot to work on. So I'm just going to give a few highlights of the last couple of years of things that we've been busy with. So all of us were new to AAAF to begin with. So a lot of the work's been about learning and familiarizing ourselves with AAAF and UV and its dependencies through bug fixes and improvements. We've been connecting with other London-based UV users, so the VNA and the National Archives especially. As we've heard already, we've been playing key roles in the community sprints. And last year was quite a big milestone in that we worked with Digerati to get an interim digitized solution online. So Digerati are providing the back end of their AAAF cloud services, and that's displayed through UV. We've been going to lots of conferences, which has been really fun. So I think a lot of you here today, we've probably met you at one of these conferences. We worked on this thing called AAAF Timeline, which is kind of an extension for UV, which allows you to visualize a AAAF collection as an interactive, zoomable timeline. Oops, skipped ahead there. We've done UX research, we've built testing frameworks, and we've worked with this guy, Scott Jensen, on potential new UI designs for UV. And most importantly, currently we're developing the BL's new AAAF pipeline. So we're bringing that process in-house, and we've also been continuing the work on the Swedish National Archives annotations interface. Here's a quick look at the AAAF timeline that I just mentioned. So as you can see in the bottom panel, it's kind of an extension panel for UV that allows you to visualize something chronologically. And in the top panel, this is kind of a sneak peek at the potential future UI of UV. Some of the functions put into different zones, cleaner, more organized interface. And this is what we're currently working on. So we're in the third sprint of our annotations project. And this is carrying on from the Swedish National Archives, which we'll hear from soon. So this is making that work compatible with AAAF Presentation 3 API and Content Search 2 API. So the next sprint we're doing that is experimenting with some different layouts in the UI for the full text display. And the future, well, we've just been made permanent, and this is a huge cause for celebration for us because it's given us the confidence and the ability to start thinking about more long-term meatier features and projects. So continuing the pipeline, the AAAF pipeline in-house. We now have some multi-spec.
Okay, you've broken up for me, James, now. I'm assuming that's the case for everybody else, but I think you might be finished. But thank you for that. And sorry that you had technical issues. But yeah, it's great to highlight the work that the BL have done, and just to mention again, I can put my camera on, just to mention again how incredibly supportive that the UV and the AAAF community have been to us as a new team. And we wouldn't have been able to do it without everybody. So yeah, hopefully we can make big plans for ahead. So yeah, okay, Mia is on the call. So Mia, am I able to pass over to you now for your talk on UX?
Yep, sorry, it took me a while to get Eventbrite to tell me what the actual link was. Love that for me. I'm going to replace the current share. Can you see that? I'm getting a message from my...
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
I can see that, yeah.
It's just a pointless message. Hi, I'm Mia Ridge. I work at the British Library. I'm a digital curator, and I wanted to use my time to present two challenges that I think are really important for the community to think about. One is a kind of a very focused challenge. So as James mentioned, we've been working with Scott Jensen to think about the way in which we're dividing up the screen and the metaphors that we're using in the interface. We want to make it as simple as possible because the point of the UV is that people look at content and don't think about the software. And we've kind of been had some great work done on that. But as we think about the transcription display, so thinking back to conversations with David and Linnéa and others as they started to develop their transcription options, how does this more complicated functionality change or push at the simplicity of the interface that we want to create. And then another challenge is thinking about how we want to sell the universal viewer to potential implementers, because organizations make decisions about software that they need, and we can possibly think about the user experience of that, as well as the user experience of the end users, because the end users don't get to choose the software unless they're able to take a manifest and load it into a viewer of their choice. So we want to help those end users by helping organizations understand what the universal viewer can do for them. So in looking back, I found these design principles from about 2018, when there was a lot of activity. There was an earlier UVCON, and I think these statements might have changed slightly, but it's really good to have a statement of what you're doing and what you're not doing. So at the time we said that UV wasn't a workbench, it's not a content creation environment, it's encountered by users without any context, because it's not a finding aid, it's not a catalog, it's the thing you get to from a catalog or from a direct link. So it needs to be really understandable at a glance. The issues about being universal are that you never quite know the context in which something's being used, and that really puts pressure on the simplicity. And because it's a IIIF system, you can pass manifests to any other tool to do content creation or other things. So it takes some pressure off the universal viewer as well to do everything. So Scott Jensen, when we talked to him, pointed out that there are currently lots of targets. So lots of different places where you can click to navigate through content or to figure out what you're seeing on the screen. And he used this idea of open source software, the code, the legacy code or the code base, and the user experience design are often a patchwork of metaphors. So decisions have been made over time, sometimes quickly, sometimes with more consideration. But you can see there's a number of different kinds of design choices going on here, slightly different treatments, colorways. This is the older version of the UV that we got him to look at. But what he pointed out, I think that's really was a learning moment for us, is that there are 32 targets. There are 32 places on the old viewer interface that you could click to do something. And also it operated in two different directions. So there's a kind of vertical navigation through the index or through the thumbnails, as well as a horizontal navigation through clicking to the next pages, or by using the search function that was at the bottom of the thing, and use this kind of like teardrop design to help you navigate to places within the software. So we looked at simplifying this by grouping functions within spaces. So the functions, the buttons or the options would be within the space that they affect. So within the navigation space, you'd have things like jump to a page or search, as well as the thumbnail or text indexes. On the right-hand side, you'd have the kind of the meta about this item or the text space. And within the item space, you would have things that directly affected how you view that item. So rotate, zoom in, zoom out, single or double page view, etc. And then a global space where it might have the title of the item and also global functions like download, settings, full screen, etc. So that all made a lot of sense. But as we start to introduce new features, it means that we have to think through whether that metaphor or that kind of idea still works. And I think that's a bit challenging because it means a bit more movement across the screen. So if you're searching within, if search within is a kind of navigation question, you're searching, which might also be thought of as a form of filtering on the left-hand side, and then viewing the results in the transcription on the right-hand side, and possibly also highlighted on the item itself. So the question that I wanted to bring to the community is, how do we think that might work? How might we adapt it? How might we test it? And how will we work together to come up with a great solution for this? I think a great solution is possible, but we want to be sure that any solution is acceptable by the wider community as well. And then thinking to my second challenge, how can we improve the stakeholder experience? So the UX of the UV as a kind of meta study or meta community really needs to respond to the needs of institutional decision makers so that we can get it in front of end users. So the Ideally, the user experience for users is a key factor in the decision-making process, but often it might come down to how good is the documentation? How can you figure out what's required to install it? Can you figure out how to configure it? Do you have a good sense of the maintenance resources and skills that you might have? So even though it's free software, what's the lifetime cost to your institution of maintaining this, particularly if it's using languages that you don't have in-house? So maybe the community can think about how we make pathways to maintenance clear. And Saira's done great work on documenting the configuration, but how do we make this all really, really obvious to some busy person doing a comparison across all the viewers out there? And we want to be sure that it has a modern look and feel. We know that for some institutions, perhaps particularly design-focused or art-focused museums or institutions, a modern look and feel is really vital, and also something that can be really easily styled to match their site colors or their brand colors. Offering an unobtrusive embed is really important for people who want to just show an item without offering the full set of features. It might be a single page from a folio or a single image that you want people to have that deep zoom and those kinds of features without having to buy into the whole complicated wedding cake of features available in the universal viewer. But then they might also want a full set of the features. And I think another really important point is documenting accessibility compliance, because that is a key factor for people thinking about taking up the UV. So this is a sample. I'm sure that you all might have different ideas about what factors are important. And I thought perhaps if as a community we can document those factors, then we can look at how well we're meeting those needs, how easy it is for someone to answer the questions that they have that might be something like this. So those are my two challenges that I wanted to bring to the community. And I would love to hear your questions and thoughts, and see you on the Slack or some other community call sometime.
Thank you very much, Mia. That was fab. Thank you for bringing up the Scott Jensen work again. I think seeing those different targets on the screen was a bit of a light bulb moment for me as a newbie to UX. We've been doing a bit of work on the UI in the community. So if any, I don't think we'll be demoing in this call, but if anybody wants to get involved and have a look at it, just reach out on Slack, as Mia says, and we can go through stuff. But I won't derail. So next up is my colleague Lanie Okorodudu. So she's going to be talking about testing. When we first started as a team back in 2024, testing was one of our big priorities, as we were told that the UV wasn't particularly well tested in certain areas. So Lanie's just going to run through the ways in which she has improved this process. So Lanie, over to you.
Thank you, Erin. Let me just share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you, everyone. And it's good to see both new and familiar faces and names joining us today. Since the team already been introduced, I keep this brief. I'm Lanie, and I've been part of this wonderful community for over a year now. And what I appreciate most about this role is that it's truly collaborative. The Universal Viewer is shaped by developers, testers, and curators, and also users around the world. And that shared effort is what makes it special. So what I'd like to share today is how testing fits into that story, why it matters, how do we test UV, some of the challenges we face, and how you can get involved in making Universal Viewer even better for everyone. So let's start with the big question: why does testing matters? When Universal Viewer breaks, it's not just a bit of code going wrong. For a researcher, it could mean not being able to access the one manuscript they have been using for their research. And for the museum or library visitors, it could mean missing out on a digital exhibition that could bring culture and history to life. These aren't just bugs in a technical sense. They are barriers to knowledge, to learning and discovery. This is why testing is so important. Testing isn't just about ticking boxes or catching errors. It's about trust. institutions trust UV to display their collection reliably. It's about accessibility, making sure everyone, regardless of ability, can explore those collections with ease. And it's about impact, ensuring UV does exactly what people need it to do, quietly and reliably, without them ever having to think about the technology behind it. So how do we actually test UV? You can think of it as a continuous cycle where each part flows naturally into the next. Ideally, we would like to start with automated testing. Tools like Playwright or Robot Framework run through repetitive checks for us, which mean we can catch issues early, reduce human error through a greater consistency, and free up our time for more interesting work. It's like having a safety net that's always there. But of course, automation can't cover everything, and that's where manual testing comes in. Manual testing relies on experience-based techniques. We use our knowledge, intuition, and curiosity rather than just following scripts or doing heavy pre-planned test design. Manual testing is structured process and not randomly performed. It is repetitive and concise. Sometimes that means carefully following a detailed test cases or step-by-step script to make sure specific features work exactly as expected. More of a checklist-based approach, I would say. For this, I personally use Quality Center or QC. I'm not sure if you're all aware of that software. Though across the British Library, we're moving towards Azure DevOps. But manual testing is also about going beyond the script, exploring like a real user would, clicking around and noticing unexpected behavior. And of course, this is all part of a bigger cycle. Automation give us speed and consistency, while manual testing give us human judgment. And together, they help us ensure that Universal Viewer not only function correctly, but truly works for the people who is using it every day. And the key part of our manual testing is exploratory testing. Here, we and sometimes stakeholders or real users gets a hands-on with the new features. We click, we experiment and use our curiosity and experience to uncover issues that might not be caught by script or automation. Their feedback is incredibly valuable because users approach the features from their own perspective, often spotting things we might have missed. And next is there's accessibility testing, which is often overlooked but is essential for a robust, inclusive user interface. During our accessibility sprint, I lean heavily on tools like AXE DevTool is a browser extension, which directly reference WCAG 2.2 standards. This way, we're not just ticking boxes, we're making sure that UV is genuinely usable by everyone, regardless of ability. And finally, there's collaboration, which itself is a powerful form of testing. When we communicate openly, share ideas, and discuss potential issues early, we actually prevent defects before they happen. We stay connected through tools like Teams, GitHub, Slack, as well as a monthly community and steering group calls. Whether it's confirming a potential issues or learning from someone else's experience, that back and forth strengthen the whole team. And then the cycle begins again. Testing UV isn't just a one-off task where we say, oh, I've completed my testing, but it's a continuous loop that keeps the product reliable, evolving, and truly user-focused. Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. Like any other project, we face our share of challenges. Some areas of the code are still quite tricky to test, and we don't have as many testers as we'd like. Having more people from different industry backgrounds make a huge difference. Dedicated accessibility expert, for example, bring unique insight that helps ensure UV works well for everyone. And as always, time and resources are limited. We have to balance priorities and make sure we're focusing on the areas that have most impact. But despite those challenges, every single test adds value. Institution can adapt UV with confidence. The more we test, the fewer bugs we fix later. And that means we can spend more time doing what we all love, creating new features, improving the experience, and expanding what UV can do. So even the smallest contribution, a single test, a quick feedback, or a bug report, all add up. Together, they form the foundation that keep UV reliable and continuously improving for the whole community. And this is where you all come in. Testing isn't just for developers, it's something everyone can be part of. If you're a creator or a researcher or a project manager, you can get involved through user acceptance testing. If you are more technical, you can contribute directly to the testing process. And even if you've just started using UV, simply reporting issues or sharing experience makes a huge difference. The more diverse our testers are, the better UV becomes. Everyone brings different perspective, and that diversity alone is what helps us build something truly reliable and is inclusive. So my call to action is this: get involved, whether it's testing, giving feedback, or joining the community discussion. Your input matters. Every voice helps what makes a universal viewer something that the entire community can rely on and be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lanie. We've had a few questions in the past about getting involved in testing. Am I okay to say they can contact you on Slack if they want to have a bit of advice on how to be an experienced tester?
Yes, yes, that should be fine.
Thank you, and thank you for all the work you do. Great, lovely. Okay, so now I will pass over to Linnéa from Swedish National Archive, who is going to go through the really significant developments that they've been working on over the past 2 years, enabling transcription, search and display in the UV.
Yes, thank you very much. Do you see my screen? Okay.
We can see your screen, yes.
Perfect. Hi everyone, and thank you for having me. My name is Linnéa, and I am the product owner of the Universal Viewer at the Swedish National Archives since 1.5 years. And my team has recently been working on the development of making text from handwritten text recognition available in the different online services of the Swedish National Archives. So I'm going to talk to you about that and how we made millions of handwritten archival documents available to the public as searchable text using HTR, IIIF, and the Universal Viewer. Our government mandate or mission states that we are to safeguard the society's archival information and make it accessible. And access part of the mission is emphasized, stating that access to cultural heritage and authentic information that can be used in research, and it's fundamental to our democracy. And we are around 400 employees at the Swedish National Archives, and we keep 76 shelf miles of documents. And even, yes, well, speaking of our online search service, we have the National Archives database, NAD, and this is one way our users can access the archives. And in NAD, we offer 73 million fully open access images online, and even more if you log in or visit our reading rooms. And we also provide open APIs for archival metadata and images, and several open data sets that are downloadable. And we also make some selected content available on the Wikimedia platforms. But still, even if we do all these things to try to make it easier for the public to use our archives online, the actual content still isn't very accessible, as you know. You need to be able to read this old handwriting, and you could never manually analyze large amounts of archival text, or at least it would be very time-consuming. So what we offer is simply images of text, not actual text. And in this project, we were trying to do something about that. And up until now in our search service, it has only been possible to search the metadata registered about the archives, and that is also often quite inadequate. And you have up until now not been able to search the actual text content of the documents. So the goal for this project was to try to make this whole situation better, and we wanted to help our users decipher the old handwriting. We wanted to make the content of the document searchable, offer possibility to analyze large amounts of text at once. And in 2024, we started a project to integrate the recent AI and HTR development of the Swedish National Archives into our universal viewer and the National Archives database, and also our different open APIs. So the goal of this was also to try to take the next steps in our own AI development, because this all opens up possibilities for us to make new ways that users can interact with the archival information. For example, like semantic search and AI assistants helping our users with research in the future. And before I will show you what we did in this project, I was just going to quickly have a look at this much simplified AI journey of the Swedish National Archives, since everything that came before our project in 2024 is really the enabler of what we have been doing in this project. So the journey started in 2019, and the first HTR model was released in 2021. And then in 2023, the Swedish Lion, our HTR base model, was released. And during this journey, much time, of course, was put into exploring the use of HTR and AI in archives and developing an infrastructure to work with AI, but one should not underestimate all the time and energy that was also put into making training data for these AI models. We have had several projects focusing on collaborating with the community, volunteers, genealogists, and so forth to manually transcribe documents and make ground truth data. So all this work came before me and my team of developers started the project of integrating the HTR development in our online services. And this project now has released a beta functionality in the National Archives database, and we have released actually over 3 million HTR processed images that are now searchable. And the base model that is used on all these 3 million documents is our Swedish Lion. It is good at Swedish handwriting from 1650 to 1900, and it is best on handwriting from the 19th century, which reflects the amount of training data. And we are continuing to update this model a few times a year, and it is actually ongoing right now, so we hope to update it very soon as we collect new training data. And together with the Swedish Lion, we use our software HTR Flow, both of which are available as open source. And HTR Flow can obviously be used with any other model. It does not have to be the Swedish Lion. Yes, and someone in this protocol from the Svea Court of Appeal from 1786 got a fine for illegally producing alcohol. So I thought that was fun. So about the documents that we have released, and talking about the Svea Court of Appeal protocols, that is what makes up the lion's share of the HTR processed documents that we have released now in April of 2025. And that first release also included documents related to the witch processes in Sweden. And since the first release in April, we have published searchable text for another around 2 million images in the National Archives database. And all these documents are of the same type, running text, and a lot of like legal documents and protocols, since that is what the AI model can manage right now. And during 2026 now, we plan to continue to add searchable text to even more of the digitized documents that we have online in NAD. So let's have a look at what we have developed for our search service, NAD. And this is to make it possible for the users to search through all the documents that have been processed with HTR that are published in NAD. And note also that our current search service is, I think, about 13 years old now, and we are actually in the process of making a whole new user experience and design for this interface. But I think that will be maybe a presentation for another time. What we have done here is simply adding a very simple checkbox that allows the users to search through all the archival files that have HTR processed text available to date. So in future, the new version of NAD, we plan to add several more possibilities when searching the HTR processed content. And the result list shows all the archival files where the searched word is present somewhere in the HTR processed text. So you get a preview of 3 text snippets from the text and a choice to show all the results in the image viewer. And that, of course, leads us to the star of the show, the development we have made to the universal viewer to make it possible to search and view the HTR processed text side by side with the image of the original document. And as you heard before today, we are in the process of incorporating this functionality into the main UV repository. So let's have a closer look here to what we have added. So we added a full search panel to the left to search and display results with text snippets within the archival document. And we added a text panel to the right displaying the HTR process text next to the image. And the highlighting function throughout highlights the search result in the image and in the text panel, and it also highlights your own clicks or markings in the text or the image. And we have also added the possibility to download the full text as AutoXML. I'm sorry. Yes, to download the full text as AutoXML or TXT files. And we have added 2 new metadata fields that tells the user about the transcription method and the confidence value. Yes, and everything you can do with the HTR processed text in our interface is also available in our APIs. For this project, we implemented the IIIF Content Search API, of course, that the Universal Viewer is using to search the document. We also updated our own Search REST API to enable search functionality through all the HTR process documents that have been published so far. That is the same functionality that NAD is offering in the interface itself. So before we have like a live look at it, let's have just some of the technical details of the publishing process. The digital images of the archival documents are processed with, as I said, Swedish Lion and through the pipeline HTR flow. And the resulting auto files are stored together with the images in the image storage, and our archival database that is like the source of information in NAD is updated with information that there is an auto file present for that specific image, and this enables search in the documents in NAD. And the auto files are indexed together with the archival metadata in Solar Cloud, and we use the Solar OCR highlighting plugin to be able to create these highlights. And the IIIF content search is used to enable search within the images and the archival files. And of course, also we are using IIIF image and presentation API. And I am very much not the right person to ask the technical questions, so I will be happy to send any technical questions to the right persons. So please just contact me if that is the case. I don't know how much time do I have? Do I have time to quickly live show the Universal Viewer as well?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Yeah. Yes, I'll do that. So let me just see if I can change the screen sharing. Yes, there. Okay. So now you see our search service, and I have searched here for Blåkulla, since, as I mentioned, we have several documents from the witch processes, and this is the place where the witches were said to travel to meet with the devil. Yes, and if I search for this, I get a few, 46 actually hits on this word, and my first archival file here is some court protocols of this some cases. So let's have a look at it in the Universal Viewer. So as I said, and as you can see, we have all the search hits here, and I can view them in the image, and I have the text here, so I can also see my own highlights and also the the searched word that I have searched for here. And some of these pages are actually manually created and reviewed. So this particular page is part of the training data, and some other in this volume I know are made with the Swedish Lion. We can have a look at a more newer document here from the Gothenburg police from 1870, and you can see the functionalities. Yes, and that is, I think, all I had, and we are also very happy to continue this development together with the community and make it even better and more useful. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's amazing. It's great to see it in action. And as has been mentioned earlier on in the session, the BL team have been working with Linnéa's team about getting this merged into community version, how we're going to coordinate it with the UI work that we've been doing. So yeah, it could be collaboration at its best, I think.
Yes.
So thank you very much. There has been a bit of conversation in the chat. It's nice to see David here as well, from the Swedish National Archives as well. I think he's been answering questions in the chat.
Then I don't have to, maybe.
Would anybody like to, any questions? I'm aware we've sort of been jumping about a bit, but would anybody like to ask any questions either in the chat or speak up? It's fine either way. I think some of the questions were being answered as you presented, Linnéa, as well, which is amazing. Amazing work.
Perfect.
It's always good.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good to go. So okay. Oh, hang on. People having to nip out. Okay, well, that seems like a good time to break then. So we've said about 15 minutes for the break, and then if we can all return. So if we can come back here just before 1:45, and if we can all return to this main room, and then we'll go through the different breakout sessions, and everyone can have the opportunity to ask questions before they decide which one they're going to go in. So yes, see you just before 1:45.